In Quito, Ecuador. This is From the South, and I am Suni Gray. The U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and other top officials have met with Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto. Peña Nieto reportedly urged the U.S. delegation to reunite migrant families separated at the border. The delegation also met with the President-elect Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador. Issues including the transition of power, trade, migration and border issues were discussed, as well as transnational crime. And we have more from our Mexican correspondent, Pablo Perez.
So during Mike Pompeo's official visit to Mexico today, there were several items on the schedule, both meetings with the still acting president of Mexico, Enrique Peña Nieto, and his chancellor, Luis Videgaray. But the most important and the one that goes the most attention is the meeting with the virtual president-elect Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador and his chancellor, Marcelo Ebrard, along with several other members of the cabinet. And what is calling the attention mostly is that this meeting is not being held in any official government building, nor in any security-able hotel place, but in the house that holds the campaign war room of Andrés Manuel López Obrador for the last several months. Some analysts see in this gesture a show of strength by Andrés Manuel López Obrador that is forcing the Secretary Pompeo to come all the way to his war room, to his campaign house to meet, instead of choosing any other governmental buildings that could be at their disposition. It's remarkable that there are several organizations demonstrating outside this place, both against backing the Dreamers, the DACA, and people that is protesting for the family separation of migrant children in the border. During this meeting, both the President-elect and Secretary Pompeo are going to discuss several issues, mostly about trade. But they say that security is not out of the table. But what is out of the table, and Andrés Manuel has said it several times, is to talk about any kind of wall along the border.
Thank you, Pablo Perez. Now, tens of thousands of people are on the streets of London to protest against U.S. President Donald Trump's first official visit to Britain. More than 64,000 people are expected to march in the capital, and more than 20 other cities across the country were expected to join in the massive protests during his visit. They carried placards that read, "Dump Trump" and "Keep your tiny hands off women's rights," while others chanted, "Donald Trump has got to go." A giant blimp representing Trump in diapers has been drawing a lot of attention. Earlier, the Prime Minister Theresa May said she wanted to deepen the cooperation between Britain and the United States following her meeting with Trump. May and Trump discussed security issues, including stopping nuclear proliferation. Trump has been talking about his great relationship with the British Prime Minister a day after he made a blistering attack on her plans for Brexit, saying it would kill trade relations between their countries. And to add insult to injury, he praised the recently resigned Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, saying that he could be a great Prime Minister.
No two countries do more together than ours to keep their people safe and prosperous. And we want to deepen that cooperation even further to meet the shared challenges we face now and in the years ahead.
The relationship between our two nations is indispensable to the cause of liberty, justice, and peace. The United Kingdom and the United States are bound together by a common historic heritage, language, and heroes. The traditions of freedom, sovereignty, and the true rule of law were our shared gift to the world. They are now our priceless inheritance to a civilization.
A Guatemalan mother in the United States who was separated from her 3 children at the Mexican border in May has finally been reunited with them. Yanni Gonzalez had been allowed to briefly see her children, but she did not get them back into her custody until now. She was separated from her children, Dayun, Hamlin, and Lister, when she was held at the Aloy Detention Center in Phoenix, Arizona. The zero-tolerance policy implemented by Donald Trump led to more than 2,000 children being separated from their parents.
I want to send a message to all those mothers who are still in the detention centers, just like there are many mothers who are desperate to get out of those places to be reunited with their children. And I send a message to all those mothers to fight, because with the help of all these people, they will achieve it with God's help.
That want to get out to be reunited.
Now to Colombia, where 32 former FARC leaders are appearing in front of the Special Jurisdiction for Peace Court, or JEP. The FARC members are accused of kidnapping. This first hearing will serve to provide the armed group members and their lawyers with the information that links them to alleged illegal detentions, so that they may decide whether to plead guilty or not guilty at a later hearing. The former leaders could face sentences of up to 8 years if they plead guilty, but this could turn into a 20-year sentence if they plead not guilty and are convicted. Our correspondent in Bogota, Jose Manuel Jimenez, has more details.
A number of leaders of the Revolutionary Alternative Forces of the Continent, or FARC, have just entered the room where the Special Jurisdiction for Peace works. Rodrigo Lodoño, Carlos Antonio Lozada, and Pablo Catatumbo, along with their lawyers. This event is historic for Colombian justice, as it is the first time that an armed group, a former armed group, like the FARC, appears before a special peace court. On this occasion, Case 001 gets opened, related to the kidnapping of people. The case is based on a report by the Attorney General, in which it talks of 6,162 investigations between 1996 and 2012. Today, these investigations will be notified to the FARC members, and also the court will decree the stage of truth, responsibility, and clarification of facts. FARC members will be also reminded of the benefits that could get withdrawn if they do not follow the established rules detailed in the peace agreement and by the Special Jurisdiction for Peace. Along with the report I was telling you about, they will also receive a database by the foundation País Libre, Free Country, that highlights 40 cases of disappeared people by the former armed group. On the other hand, some members of the FARC party will not attend this appointment. FARC member Jesus Santrich was denied the possibility of attending. The FARC is urging the Special Jurisdiction for Peace to assume its responsibility as a sovereign court and urging the public prosecutor to allow Santrich to appear before this court.
It's Free Lula Day in Brazil. Demonstrations are taking place across the country in support of the former president. Our Mia Alberti has more.
So today is Free Lula Day, or Lula Livre Day, and this was announced by the Workers' Party, the party that Lula is affiliated with, and today has two purposes. The first one, his supporters are asking for his release once again, and the second is to announce to start heating up the campaign until the 15th of August, when the party is going to the capital in Brasilia and are going to officially write Lula da Silva's name as one of the presidential candidates for the Workers' Party. So today is not only about his release, but also about campaigning for that date and the start of a campaign to say so. And we are seeing protests all across the country. We are seeing them in Rio de Janeiro. We are seeing them in Porto Alegre, which is where, which is the address for the 4th Regional Court, which is the one that condemned Lula for 12 years in jail. That's where he's serving his time as well for corruption and money laundering. So we are seeing a big demonstration there. A lot of his supporters are there today to ask for his release. And this comes just after one day. Yesterday, we reported that he was acquitted of one of his sentences, the first time he was acquitted of one of his sentences. So this is a big day for Lula supporters as well.
We thank Mia Alberti for that report. The National Organization of Retired People and Pensioners in Uruguay marched to the National Parliament headquarters to demand an increase in minimum pension payments. The organization rejected the suggested increase by the government, calling it insufficient. They want the increase to be more in line with the minimum wage. The retirees are also upset over the last increase in July, which amounted to less than $10. They met with the Finance and Budget Committee deputies to negotiate.
We've received an insufficient proposition from the government, and for those reasons, we mobilize today and protest on other issues we have as a pensioner and retiree organization.
Con otros reclamos que tenemos como organización de jubilados y pensionistas.
El problema es
The problem here is that we tried to improve the pensions for retirees. We wanted it to be the same as the minimum wage, which actually is not a lot, but helps a lot for the pensioners to not have to depend on their families.
A peace caravan has departed Managua from Masaya to commemorate the 39th anniversary of the tactical withdrawal against the Somoza dictatorship. The massive caravan is also rejecting recent violence. Maria Jose Diaz brings us more from Masaya.
Supporters of the Sandinista Front, families, young people, and motor vehicles with the red and black flag are all a part of this caravan along with revolutionary music. This is taking place in the city of Masaya as it does each year to celebrate peace, and also where President Daniel Ortega will make statements and wear an act of remembrance of the heroes and all of Nicaragua's heroic feats. Nicaraguan families are saying not one step backwards because they will achieve peace. Nicaraguan Vice President has declared a free Nicaragua full of peace and love. Meanwhile, the opposition called for a 24-hour strike. Nevertheless, many private businesses opened their doors and the flow of cars and transportation is moving as usual.
Thank you, Maria, for that report. In Haiti, the streets are calm, but the political turmoil continues. Rolanda Skura is in Port-au-Prince.
We are in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. On Saturday at about 10 in the morning, the Prime Minister Jacques Lafontaine is due to appear before Parliament. The demand for him to appear was repeated earlier today by 17 opposition members of Parliament, who told the Haitian President Jovenel Moïse that they have no faith in his government. There have also been various calls for protest with a big effort on social media to mobilize against the government. What the political class here in Haiti is trying to do, and has been trying to do all week, is open talks, negotiations to avoid any repetition of the events that led to things like this. The kind of looting and burning which we can see the results of, and which affected public and private properties, causing extensive damage. Although we don't know yet the cost of that damage, it also led to the death of between 3 to 7 people, according to different reports. So there is an attempt to end, or at least open a breathing space in this crisis in Haiti, which is all at once economic, social, and political. The International Monetary Fund insists it will support Haiti, but that the application of the package of structural adjustment measures, which the IMF is proposing, could be rolled out on a gradual basis, including a step-by-step increase in the price of fuel, which, of course, was what provoked the crisis here in Haiti.
Thanks, Rolando, for that report. Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel welcomed the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves. Gonsalves placed a wreath at the monument to José Martí before heading to the official welcome ceremony and bilateral talks. Prime Minister Gonsalves has visited Cuba several times and has a very close relationship with members of the Bolivarian Alliance. Gonsalves will attend the 24th edition of the Sao Paulo Forum in Havana.
We have to work together on a set of common goals for the upliftment of our people in the interest of our people's humanization, and to ensure that the basic principles of state-to-state relations are adhered to: non-interference in the internal affairs of countries, no imperial threats, no question of any intervention, military or otherwise. These are bedrock principles.
We'll take a short break now, but join us again for a special look at the World Cup in the lead-up to the final on Sunday when we return.
I think it's fine. I mean, I think they like me a lot in the UK.
Welcome back. The World Cup semi-final kicks off on Saturday, but all eyes on the big final on Sunday. Jose Daniel Lopez gets us ready in the World Cup reports.
Thank you, Soini, and welcome to our Telesur Russia 2018 special World Cup coverage. I'm Jose Daniel Lopez, and here are today's headlines. Authorities in France are prepared to deploy security forces as the country hosts for the World Cup Championship on Sunday. Hundreds of thousands of people flooded the streets after the win on Tuesday. Fans and police came face to face on the famous Champs-Élysées. Officers fired tear gas before evacuating the avenue. Huge crowds are expected on Sunday.
Over the weekend, there will be 110,000 police officers and gendarmes who will be deployed, of which more than 12,000 in Paris and its inner suburbs. All cities will be obviously treated in the same way, and we'll try to mobilize. I don't think we can mobilize any more than what we're doing so far this weekend. All hands are on deck.
People in France are getting prepared for Sunday's match. The last time France were named world champions was after the 3-0 victory over Brazil. The final took place in France on July 12, 1998, and a French event that football fans of that generation have not forgotten.
It's crazy. We've been waiting for it for 20 years. In 1998, I was 8 years old, so I couldn't fully enjoy it. This year, I've already had fun, but I'm going to enjoy it even more on Monday. At work, we'll finally be celebrating. It's going to be great.
Here's a look back to 20 years ago, when France won the 1998 World Cup. Massive celebrations took place in Paris. Croatia is training in Moscow 2 days ahead of their first ever World Cup final against France. Croatian midfielder Ivan Rakitic insists fatigue will not be an issue for the biggest game of his career, despite being pushed to 3 periods of extra time during their last 3 games.
There are 4.5 million players on the pitch. We will carry one another. We will have the energy. We know this is the biggest game of our lives, and we want to leave the pitch with our heads held high and be able to say we have done everything. They really deserve to play in the final. They are a serious, strong team. They have great players, but we have to stop their game somehow. It will be difficult in attack and in defense, but we have to play as well as we can. We have to play our game. We have to focus on us.
Belgium's head coach Roberto Martinez said that they want to win the 3rd place match against England on Saturday in order to leave the tournament on a good note.
We want to win. I think when you finish the tournament, you carry the feeling of the last game. And we know that, and that's important to be aware. We've been working now, we've been a month. We arrived on the 13th of June into Russia. It's been an incredible experience. Everyone that has been part of the Belgium team has performed in an incredible manner, from not just the players, but everyone around the team. And I think every Belgian fan deserves that winning feeling at the end of this tournament.
Let's have a look at the final games this weekend. The 3rd place match will take place between Belgium and England at St. Petersburg Stadium. And the final, with the tournament favorites France, takes place on Sunday. They face Croatia, who shocked many with their strong performance. The final match will be held in Luzhniki Stadium in Moscow. And that's all for today's Telesur Russia 2018 headlines. Don't miss our exclusive show, De la Mano del 10, the World Cup according to Maradona, only on Telesur English. I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Back to you, Soini.
The International Monetary Fund has concluded its mission to Barbados. Officials were in Bridgetown since July 2nd, looking into the economic situation as they prepare a financial package for the country. The IMF says Prime Minister Motley's June 11th preliminary budget was a step in the right direction. This next phase will focus on reducing expenditure in the public service and reducing government transfers to state-owned enterprises. The Caribbean Court of Justice held a special ceremony Friday to mark the elevation of Justice Mark Sanders as the president of the regional body. As expected, the question of when the other CARICOM members will make the CCJ their final appellate court was raised. Only 4 CARICOM members have made the CCJ their final court of appeal. Barbados' Chief Justice Marston Gibson has criticized those countries.
In a sense, the failure of the other Caribbean countries, other than the 4 of us, Barbados, Belize, Guyana, and Dominica, to accede to the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ is akin to giving birth to a child who continues to grow and continues to pretend to be independent, but still be umbilically tied to her or his mother.
The countries of Barbados, Guyana, Belize, and Dominica are truly to be saluted. They have completed the circle of their independence. They have made a conscious choice to sever the final vestige of the colonial chain. They have achieved a higher level of self-determination than their sister states, and correspondingly, their people enjoy a greater degree of access to justice at the apex court level.
Looking into the benefits of marijuana may be a priority for several CARICOM nations, but it isn't for the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley told media Thursday his government isn't looking into decriminalization of the substance. This comes after the CARICOM Regional Commission on Marijuana recommended the declassification of marijuana as a dangerous drug in all legislation. The 68-year-old Prime Minister said science hasn't fully determined the benefits of the plant.
Let me just again put it very simply. We have priorities, and decriminalizing marijuana is not one of them. There are now discussions of marijuana as an economic entity. There are those who are arguing about marijuana as a harmless substance, marijuana as a medicinal breakthrough, and so on and so on. All of this, for the government of Trinidad and Tobago, is still, the jury is still out on the science of this, and therefore we will be guided as it evolves.
In Pakistan, IS has claimed responsibility for a suicide bombing which left 128 dead and over 200 injured in the deadliest attack since the 2014 Peshawar school bombing. The Mustang bombing was the latest and deadliest of a string of attacks targeting politically active persons ahead of the July 25th election. The victims were taken to a hospital in Quetta. The attack targeted a campaign event by the Awami National Party, a center-left and secular organization in Balochistan province. The Islamic State group has claimed responsibility. Earlier, another blast killed 4 people in Banyu in the northwest of the country. In Yemen, thousands took to the streets of Sana'a to commemorate the 4th anniversary of the Houthi resistance movement. The demonstrators marched with national flags denouncing attacks of the Saudi-led coalition, which are backed by the United States. Yemen continues to be in the midst of a long civil war as the Saudi-led coalition fights on behalf of the U.S.-recognized government against the Yemeni Houthi rebels. In Spain, workers from Amazon's primary could be going on strike next week during Amazon's most profitable period. Our correspondent in Madrid, Eduardo Marin, brings us more.
Workers at the biggest Amazon warehouse in Spain have called for a 3-day strike next week, to be held from Monday to Wednesday. The strike will coincide with Prime Day, Amazon's biggest sales day. Workers are taking strike action because they say Amazon failed to stick to their promises. At one point, they had called off the strike in an attempt to give Amazon a second chance to comply. Workers say that the company changed the labor agreement without consulting them. With this change, workers earn less for extra hours, and some of them have been demoted. Workers want a wage increase of 1.5% over the Consumer Price Index. Meanwhile, negotiations are expected to continue until next Sunday. We'll await to see what happens. All of this in a center that has 1,500 permanent workers and 900 temporary workers, in a company whose president is one of the wealthiest men in the world, according to Forbes.
cobrando menos salario. Además, los sindicatos piden una subida
Thank
de los...
Eduardo for that report, and we've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at tellusyourtv.net/English. And you can also join us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. Tell Us Your English, I'm Suni Gray. Thank you so much for watching.
Sorpresa de todas las sorpresas.